与中国结缘60多年。他说
：“Here are indeed friends at heart, friends to be depended on in the transformation and journey for us to develop our country.”
谈及现代化发展历程，他说
：“Most of us on the African continent, in our development, you can recognize the impact of cooperation with China.”
中非大家庭相聚中非合作论坛北京峰会，他说
：“It's an occasion which we all cherish when we come together as heads of state.”
高端访谈专访津巴布韦总统姆南加古瓦，敬请收看。
关注国际焦点，洞察世界风云。大家好，欢迎来到本期的高端访谈，我是邹韵。今天我们要对话的嘉宾是来华出席中非合作论坛峰会的津巴布韦总统姆南加古瓦。60多年前，他曾经到中国学习，这段难忘的经历对他产生了哪些终身受益的影响？作为中非合作论坛的积极参与者，他如何评价这一机制给非洲带来的发展机遇？对于携手推进现代化、共筑高水平中非命运共同体，他又有着怎样的见解呢？今天我们一起在对话中寻找答案。Mr. President, thank you so much for joining us here on Leaders Talk. As you arrive here in Beijing to join this grand gathering of the China-Africa Big Family, which is the 2024 summit of FOCAC. So to start with, can you share with us some of your insights and key takeaways of this event?
On behalf of myself and my delegation, we are extremely happy for the warmth of reception we've received so far in China. This is not the first time we have this meeting between China and Africa.
Right.
It's an occasion when both China and Africa share the challenges which we face, the successes which we are scoring together, because we're all determined to have a future that uplifts the lives of our people. So it's an occasion which we all cherish when we come together as heads of state.
Well, you were actually here in Beijing in 2018 for the last summit of FOCAC. So over these past years, how do you see the significance of this forum in enhancing ties and setting new directions of cooperation between our two sides?
If we look at the last conference we held in 2018 and today, there's been a tremendous transformation in our respective countries.
Right.
Because we all are determined to modernize our respective countries, to industrialize our respective countries. As we come to China, which is rapidly developed and modernized its economy, we get insights into how they've traveled that journey and the challenges which we face. Some have been resolved here. Instead of inventing the wheel, we take on board the solutions which have been achieved by China.
9月4日至6日，中非友好大家庭再一次聚首北京，围绕携手推进现代化、共筑高水平中非命运共同体这一主题，共续友情、共商合作、共话未来。从10大合作计划、8大行动，到9项工程，再到10大伙伴行动，中非合作论坛成立24年来，中国始终着眼非洲发展所需，与非洲国家共享中国发展机遇。从基础设施到人才培养，从农业技术到推进工业自主化，中国以实际行动践行中非友好合作精神。
现代化道路上，一个都不能少，一国都不能掉队。
非洲有句谚语：“同路人才是真朋友。”在逐梦现代化的道路上，中国与非洲将始终携手同行。
We know that a very important part of this forum is exchanging ideas on how to join hands towards building modernization. And many African leaders, including you, Mr. President, have arrived days in advance to go to different cities to get a better understanding about the modernization process here in the country. So what are some of the major gains for you from the travel that you had to different cities in Jiangsu, Hunan, as well as Guangdong province? Some of the lessons that you think are inspirational to the modernization process in your country?
Looking at the question as an individual, I have been to China. I came here about 61 years ago.
Right.
And stayed here. I know the China of 60 years ago and the China we are in today. In between the 60 years, I've visited China several times. So I have firsthand the leapfrogging of development and the modernization of Chinese cities. If I think of what Peking was 61 years ago and what Beijing is today, is the differences of day and night. But of course, I know in my mind, in my vision, what it was 60 years ago. And I marvel at what it is today, which means there was tremendous transformation, tremendous modernization, tremendous industrialization of this country. This style of life, which was there 60 years ago, this style of life which is there today. Mm-hmm. If we focus on looking at domestic resources to build our countries and take the responsibility ourselves to build our own country with our own vision, what we want to achieve, what we want to be.
During your trip in Shenzhen, you visited Chinese companies including BYD and Huawei. You actually said that NEVs are very comfortable and you could easily fall asleep while experiencing them. Well, Mr. President, it looks like you're very keen in exploring the new spheres of cooperation in areas such as green technology and digital transformation. Is that the case?
For my own part, I admire what has been achieved. And as I moved around visiting these companies, some of the elder corporate heads understand what I say, because I tell them what they were 60 years ago,
right,
and what they are today. So I say to them, look, I would want to leapfrog development in my country. We need to make sure as we leapfrog our transformation and modernization, we do it thoroughly and perfectly.
Maybe you have also noticed that the participants here at the forum are very passionately talking about how to write a new chapter for the China-Africa community with a shared future. So what is your vision in bringing that forward?
In terms of vision, all of us as African countries have different endowments in our respective countries. Let's look at Zimbabwe. From the discussion, three things come out. For us in particular. We must continue to make sure that we modernize and mechanize and keep our status as a food secure country. Number two, we must build and construct infrastructure so that it becomes the backbone of the modernization and industrialization of our country. Number three, we must not forget ourselves, our culture, and our education. As we pursue our education, it must be anchored on who we are and bring in science, technology, and innovation. But again, on the basis of who we are as we move forward. We should not lose our own characteristics. You say yourselves, we will develop with Chinese characteristics.
That's right.
So the same for us.
津巴布韦位于非洲东南部，首都是哈拉雷，毗邻莫桑比克、南非、博茨瓦纳和赞比亚。这里历史悠久，风景秀丽，自然资源丰富，文化传统多元，拥有世界闻名的旅游景点，具有巨大的发展潜力。中国与津巴布韦的友好关系源远流长。自1980年建交以来，两国始终保持政治互信。2018年，两国关系提升为全面战略合作伙伴关系。中国援建的上千口幸福井、穆加贝国际机场改扩建等项目， 顺利实施，成为两国务实合作的生动写照。
Yesterday, during the bilateral meeting with Chinese President Xi has proposed a five-star ironclad cooperation framework. How do you understand its significance?
I was so appreciative of what President Xi Jinping said. The degree and the warmth of cooperation he exuded towards Zimbabwe was beyond my expectation. And the offer he has given to support Zimbabwe's transformation, again, is beyond whatever me and my delegation expected. When we left, we discussed about it and said, here are indeed friends at heart, friends to be depended on in the transformation and journey for us to develop our country.
Another important issue being touched upon during the meeting is next year, 2025, marks the 45th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the two countries. So what is your vision in commemorating this very important milestone and taking the opportunity to bring the bilateral relation to even greater heights?
Our relations between Zimbabwe and China are at the level of comprehensive partnership and relations. We must lift this to a higher level between the two countries. In the years we have these diplomatic relations, our cooperation has deepened comprehensively. Look at any aspect of the economy of society. We are cooperating in education, we are cooperating infrastructure. Today, if you look at the infrastructure in Zimbabwe, you see the footprint of our relations with China. Our new international airport in Harare, in Zimbabwe.
Yes.
I believe, well, I'm not marking my own papers, but I believe that it's the best international airport in our region. Mm-hmm. And we continue to deepen that relationship. And we support each other at the regional and international fora. We know that whatever position I take on an issue, China will support. Whatever China takes, Zimbabwe will support the Chinese position because we are one in terms of both domestic and foreign policy challenges.
Talking about infrastructure, friend of China, this is you at the commissioning ceremony of the international airport in the capital city.
Okay. Yes.
And you look happy
Yes.
and proud. And actually you've said that, and I quote here, that this project would bring positive outcome to the economy of your country. So Mr. President, now it has been about a year since the completion of this project. What are some of the major changes that you have observed that is being brought and created by this project?
Last month in August, we had the SADC Summit of Heads of State in Harare. Mm-hmm. To the person, each head of state found occasion to have a chat with me and say, my brother, your airport, your new airport, the facilities that are there, just the rooms which are there now, they say, honestly, what is this? Well, I will not tell them that the whole vision is from China. I will say, I have a vision for my country. Mm-hmm. And I ask people who have the capacity to implement the vision I have. It is so devastating in terms of beauty. The facilities now which are there, even yourself when you come, you always be looking up and so as you walk, I say, no, you can also look down. It's so beautiful,
it is
so majestic. So each head of state, when they came for the summit, when we had one-to-one chat, each to the individual commented one or two things about what they saw, and they feel that, but look, my brother, I don't know how you do it, but this is admirable, and I wish that I have the capacity to do the same. I said, no, you will never reach a situation where you say, oh, now resources are there for me to do the following. It's a question of saying, this is what we want to do, and they do it.
And China is actually the very first non-African country that you chose to visit in 2018 after taking office. How do you think the enhanced ties between China and Zimbabwe contribute to boosting relations between China and Africa?
To be honest, I don't know of any African country where China has not impacted the development of that particular country. Mm-hmm. My view is that most of us on the African continent, in our development, you can recognize the impact of cooperation with China. I had a meeting yesterday with His Excellency President Xi Jinping here.
Right.
And I informed him a list of infrastructure development supported by China. In our transformation and the infrastructure development in our country, we went into all that. So you can see that there is historical cooperation between Zimbabwe and China.
And you have previously described Zimbabwe as the victim of Western sanctions. So, Mr. President, can you elaborate on the impact of those sanctions on the development of your country and also especially the livelihood of the people?
The biggest challenge we face is the imposition of the illegal sanctions on us, which were imposed by the West as a result of us demanding that which was our own, and that is the land issue. When we got our independence, the land resource was in the British hands. There is no textbook anywhere in the world which tells you how to do it. You just do it. And they say, this guy is on my land which does not belong to him, then you kick him out. Mm-hmm. That's what we did. You never go to a table to negotiate your land back. You see, in African wisdom or village wisdom, if you lose your cattle, and then you see the cattle are at another village, you don't go and beg for collect your cattle, you just collect them. Oh. So that's the philosophy we have.
What's the consequences to your country?
If you are on sanctions, you cannot develop or access global funding.
Right.
Now, for 24 years of the existence of sanctions on our country, we've never been able to access global funding for our country. But as a result of that, we looked inwards and say, Nika inovakwa nevenevaya. Which means,
what does it mean?
It means a country is built by its own people on the basis of the resources that they were given by God. Mm-hmm. So with that, we looked inward. And they were now developing, in some instances, faster than those countries who look for global capital.
Well, President Mnangagwou, China has always shown very strong opposition to those sanctions, and it has actually vetoed the proposed resolution to impose sanctions on Zimbabwe back in 2008 at the UN Security Council. And that is actually the very first time China exercises its veto power at the Council for an African country. So in what way do you think China's support is valuable to your country, especially in those difficult times?
Each time I have opportunity, I mentioned this to President Xi Jinping, that in 2008, China and Russia vetoed the imposition of sanctions by the United Nations Security Council on Zimbabwe. Mm-hmm. But individually now, not as the United Nations, but individually, we have sanctions by the Americans, sanctions by the British on Zimbabwe.
And the diplomatic relations or the diplomatic approach adopted by your government is often characterized as engagement and re-engagement policy. So can you explain to us a little bit about this international re-engagement drive, and what is your plan to navigate the complexities with the Western countries?
Engagement and re-engagement means we as Zimbabwe are a friend to all and enemy to none. We shall engage with anybody who is willing to engage with us. Re-engagement means those countries who disengaged with us as a result of sanctions or our taking over our own land, they disengaged with us. We are ready to re-engage them. And some, especially in the EU, they've come back to re-engage. So that's what it means. We are ready to engage with everybody, and we're also ready to engage those who are disengaged. Mm-hmm. So that philosophy embraces everybody.
Very important initiative proposed by President Xi are the three initiatives: the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, and the Global Civilization Initiative. Mr. President, how do you understand the global significance of these initiatives proposed by President Xi?
For us, Zimbabwe, I have no doubt that we have listened to Israel very, very carefully. Mm-hmm. And last night we spent some time
Yes.
My delegation analyzing that and how we as Zimbabwe can adapt some of the things to fit into our own concrete situation, our concrete transformation journey. What can we get in order to enhance our own view to achieve our own vision? So it's so broad, and I believe that every single African country which is here will find a place, a niche in the global vision which he presented.
So you've met with President Xi a couple of times on multiple occasions. What is your impression of President Xi as a leader, and how do you understand his vision and political philosophy?
My view is that he is living beyond his time. If you discuss with him, he is beyond his time. Physically, he is in the present, but his views are in the future. In our system, I would call him a drinking well, where you get your water to drink. Tsime. It's tsime ruzivo, meaning that it is a well of wisdom, where villagers go and get water to drink, to make food, and so on, which means their life is driven and supported by this well of water. So he is like that. He has a wisdom of the future. Each time you engage him.
Right, Mr. President, if you don't mind, you're often referred to as crocodile, which is a nickname that represents a very strong character. But there are other descriptions of your persona. For instance, a softie by your children, or as soft as war by yourself. So which representation do you think more accurately reflects your style?
If you know a crocodile, it's very patient. Very, very patient.
Right.
When it strikes, it rarely misses. So I'm described that way because during our armed struggle, among our group, I did more in striking the enemy than my colleagues. I study and they wait, and they strike at the correct moment and they succeed. That's how I got the crocodile name.
So just different aspect of you.
Then the other, soft as wool, people then thought that I was a hard person and a possibly cruel person. I said, no. Be close to me, you discover I'm as soft as wool.
Yes, that's what you said. And also, you're always seen with a scarf, which you're wearing them today around your neck. That's the color of your national flag, no matter in winter or in summer. So I'm just curious a little bit about what does it mean? Is just a fashion accessory, or is it a way to brand your country, or is there any other meaning for it?
It is just my own notion that, like it or not, I'll tell you, I just decided to wear my flag because I'm very proud of being Zimbabwean. I'm very proud of my flag, and I carry it as a demonstration that I love my country.
As an old friend of China, you must know that this year marks the 75th anniversary of the founding of People's Republic China. So what be your wishes to our country?
75 years. It's a huge plus to the Communist Party of China. It's a huge country with a huge population, but the Communist Party of China has been able to continue working on the correct line of the revolution and carrying everybody. You are impressed by the policies of the Communist Party of China.
Thank you again for sharing with your time and your very insightful views on better relations and all those issues concerning the global development. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
在专访当中，姆南加古瓦总统表示，习近平主席提出的中金5星铁杆合作架构，充分体现了中国是津巴布韦发展进程当中可以依靠的真朋友。他还表示，此次中非合作论坛峰会是一次十分宝贵的机会，让中非领导人相聚在北京，共同讨论如何应对全球挑战，共同破化合作新篇章。他期待将此行当中的启发与收获融入到本国的发展治理，在共筑高水平中非命运共同体的进程当中，与中国携手同行。感谢您收看本期的高端访谈，我是邹韵，我们下期再会。